And you're ready.
I have faith in you, Mike.
Connecting to the cloud server.
We are good.
All right, welcome everyone. So many familiar names today. For those who I haven't met yet, I'm Bianca Kuiper. I'm the Vice President of Also Known As, and the co-chair of the 25th Anniversary Committee. As you just heard, please note that we will be recording this session. So 25 years, a quarter of a century of international adoptees in the New York metro area building a community for each other. How exceptional, how special, and how meaningful, and what a reason to celebrate. And therefore, the theme of our anniversary is celebrating the global adoptee community. So initially we planned, right, to have an anniversary weekend with a beautiful gala in April of this year, but a global pandemic forced us to rethink our plans. And I have to say that I'm incredibly proud of the program and initiatives we have put together to do justice to this remarkable year. And even in a global pandemic, there is a silver lining, because although, right, like everything, and our kickoff is virtual and part of the program, at least in the beginning of the year, will be virtual, we are able to invite the global adoptee community to our events, record it and share our great initiatives and what we are doing, and really celebrate the global adoptee community. So I would like to highlight first of all what you're seeing here on the screen, the 25th anniversary logo and the visual identity designed by our member, Korean adoptee, Kyle Althoff. And you will see the slide deck, you will see all kinds of assets so we can recognize our anniversary program. And we see the blurred images of New York to highlight the celebrative nature and our home base. Before we move on, I would like to thank the committee and the Also Known As board for all the efforts and the creativity of pulling the program together, and continue to support the execution of the program throughout this year. So Jonas Eberly, my co-chair of the committee, Marissa Martin, Mia Gerstein, Jay Rinder, Kyle Althoff, Mike Mullen, Catherine Muller, Michelle Ulrich, Jacqueline Wells, Robert Calabresa, Sarah Crane-Dietrich, Hope Johnson, Lucia Zerner, and where would we be without the financial guidance of Mark Froome? So let's move on, Mike, to the next slide, because I want to talk about the mask, the face mask, as we are in a global pandemic, right? We all need a face mask, and here you are seeing the Also Known As face mask. I'm going to paste this link for you guys in the chat, and we would love to send you a mask. Everyone in this meeting, paste, there you go. So if you open this Google form, you put in your mailing address, we will send you out a beautiful mask, and you can shine with Also Known As 25th anniversary. Okay, let's move on to the agenda. So after, today, we will reveal our program and our fundraising campaign. And after that, we go to the main, highlight of today's agenda, of course, and that is a panel to discuss the foundation of the global community and the development of that. We will have a Q&A today, and then we will close out the program. So with that, I'm handing it over to the president of Also Known As, Michael Mullen. Over to you, Mike.
Thank you, and great to see everybody here, and awesome panelists. Thank you for joining us. Really looking forward to hearing what you have to say. I think I'm supposed to spotlight myself. Thank you. I do want to, I'm the current president of Also Known As. I'm the 11th president, which means there's been 10 other presidents, leading this incredible organization. So I'm very proud to join those people. And there's over 100 board members who have been really leading and been leaders in our community. So thank you for all the people over all of these years, and also recognizing the thousands of people who have joined us for many of our events, such as our happy hours, our forums where we discuss topical issues, and our mentorship program, and many other activities that we've had throughout the years. So it's really an amazing history. I think something that really sticks out to me about Also Known As, and just kind of shows me what a special organization is the mission statement, which you can find on our website, but a couple things about it really stick out to me. Two things that it mentions is empowering adoptee voices is our mission, and acknowledging loss of birth family. And those are things that were not really even talked about 5 years ago when I first started getting involved in the organization, much less, over 2 decades ago when they put this mission statement together. So to me, that's just an amazing statement of how forward-looking this organization has been and the leaders. The other thing that really amazes me about it is, as an all-volunteer organization, it started with one of the first programs was a mentorship program, and just kind of the visionary audacity of that, to think that we're going to have a mentorship program and we're going to create our own community that way, and it's still going today, after all these years. So it's just a tremendously rich history, and I'm glad that we still have it. The other thing I think that we're trying to do with our 20th anniversary is highlight that more than ever we are a global community, Also Known As, of course, based in New York, but increasingly we are interacting with people who are around the globe, and we're finding out, with more experience, we're getting more interactions with other adoptees who speak other languages, French and Swedish, and who are Indian or Chinese, and they're speaking other languages, right? And it's really amazing. It's great to be part of that. And to me, that's like something that makes me feel very special as an international adoptee, to be a part of that larger community. So, this year we want to, as part of our program, we want to highlight those aspects and also the diversity of voices that we have. So today we're kicking it off with this, with some panelists who have been intimately involved with our Also Known As history, and have continued to be a leader in the adoptee community throughout all these years. We will, showcase our fantastic lineup of activities, and we do hope to have a gala in New York City in September. So we will have more details on that. Just one last thing I want to plug is I just want to come back to the mentorship program, because typically this is a program that's run in New York City, and so it's a very local program. But of course, with the pandemic, we have moved it online through amazing efforts of our board and mentors. That has been a tremendous success. And we did a trial run over the fall, and all of those people who attended in the fall have signed up again for the spring because it went so well. So I just we do have a few spots open for that, and I just want to encourage people who are parents of international adoptees, or if you are international adoptee, we also have it open to children of international adoptees. So definitely check that out. And so thank you for coming tonight, and I hope you enjoy this look at history and also where our community is going. So with that, I will turn it over to, who am I turning it over to? Jonas. Thank you, Jonas.
Hey everyone. Some of you probably don't know me, but I'm the co-chair of the 25th anniversary committee, and been a former AKA board member. However, I had to step back this year just because of some other commitments I had. But nevertheless, I really was excited to co-chair with Bianca this amazing event of celebrating 25-year of a really diverse growing international adoptee community. As Bianca said also in the beginning, we originally had planned to have this anniversary as a extended weekend kind of event, as some of the other organizations have done that in the past. However, with the global pandemic, we had to quickly adjust plans as everyone else. And we actually took the opportunity to come up with a much broader program, which I personally think gives us much better access to a broader outreach to the international community. It gives us the possibility to have much more programming systematically, not only focusing on one weekend, but really throughout the entire year, this 2021, and hopefully with a highlight in September when we can have a gala again in New York City. So let's keep our finger crossed that in September, we will have the ability to come together as a group face to face and really getting closer to each other physically as well. So what you see on this slide is really kind of like the broad outline of the program for the next couple of months, starting with today's kickoff with a fantastic panel that we will have to kick off this celebration. But shortly after that, we have a couple of really nice events planned that I think are showcasing our theme for the celebration, which is really celebrating the global adoptee community. So you will see a lot of international flavor to that. We have people from all over the world helping us to deliver this program. We have a fantastic film in February, the film Forget Me Not, with one of the international adoptees doing a Q&A for us. We have the international breakout planned. We are also going to talk about adoptees and transgender. To Mike's point, I think a couple of years that was not a topic, and I think we see that becoming more and more increasing awareness, and something that we also really spearheading as also known as in terms of like conversations to have and giving people a voice for this. We also plan to have some of the other international community members reaching out. You see, we have a purpose event in August, tentatively in August, planned with someone from Korea, actually, that I met recently, who's talking about their research and their thought around the right of origin, which is a really interesting topic. So I'm very happy that we added that to the program. And throughout this year, we actually also plan to have a couple of more multimedia type of events. So what you will see shortly after today is we interviewed a couple of adoptees and just asked them what their thoughts is around AKA and what AKA means for them. So throughout the year, we will release short video clips of interviews with members of the community that really help us to put together a diverse story and make our voices heard so that we can all share our thoughts around what AKA has meant in our life, but also what we wanted to convey to the broader public. Lastly, I think a couple of other things. You will see there's some more, to Bianca's point, there's some more digital assets that we highly encourage you guys to also utilize. I think we can we are pretty good on social media, some more, me certainly not as well, but people are very good at like sharing their pictures, their stories. So we will have a couple of assets available, hashtags and Instagram templates that we will also share throughout the programming so that we can at least come together from an identity perspective and have the same look and feel. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Robert.
Yes, my name is Robert. I'm on the board with Also Known As, and let me just say, for my part, welcome, and wherever your journey has brought you and wherever you've come from, you're most welcome here. And we are celebrating actually you. Without you guys being here, there is no global adoptee community. So if you didn't show up today and if you weren't a part of this, we wouldn't be able to celebrate that fact. So actually, we're so thankful that you joined, and just you bringing your stories collectively here, that is the celebration in a way. And one of the ways that we would like to make this more interactive, one of the things that the platform of just meeting online and from the comforts of our homes, if you will, allows us to do is there is a chance for us to all, I think, show a piece of our story. And so we had this idea of how can we make a digital patchwork, kind of a collage, if you will, that showcases the beautiful and the incredible diversity of the global adoptee community. So what we're going to invite you to do is to participate in what we've just branded as the identity collage. And what is that? Well, on one hand, it will be mostly focused on our Instagram platform, but I believe we're also going to find ways to show the diversity through our other social media, but it's going to be primarily through Instagram. But what we're going to ask you to do as you come with your particular story, as you come with your particular gifts and talents and the narrative that you weave into all of this of who we are as a community, we're going to ask you to use these different prompts that we're going to be sharing each month. And as you can see on the screen, this month's prompt, for instance, this is what we're going to ask you to do. This month's prompt, the first one is share something about the culture or cultures you identify yourself with. Now, that is as open-ended as it sounds. And the way you'll be submitting your response to that prompt is through a simple and really easy form, Google form that we'll have the link to, and I'll share at the end how you can get that form. And we'll just ask you to upload something about yourself that aligns with that prompt. And we're going to stitch that together. We're going to be showcasing this on our social media. And through that, we would love to be able to have this kind of marker for ourselves. This is the 25th anniversary. Imagine, I don't know if we want to imagine this far out, but imagine 50 years from now at the 50th anniversary and they look back and they say, remember that 25th anniversary, and there's part of your story. There's part of how you participated and drew together this global community, and that a part of the beauty that you brought here, your particular identity showed up through one of these prompts. That would just be incredible. So we're going to create this digital identity collage. Once again, you'll be able to get the links. We're going to be blasting out these links either through our newsletter, which you can sign up for from our website, or if you're on Facebook, be sure to be following our Facebook page, also known as. And then lastly, of course, if you have Instagram, we'd love for you to follow us if you are not already at also.known.as_inc. And you should be able to find us fairly easily. Follow us. And, even if you don't participate, just see the incredible diversity. Maybe you want to just see the first prompt to go out and see what we're up to. That's fine too. We'll have a bunch of other really creative prompts to draw in different aspects. So if this prompt doesn't necessarily resonate with you, be on the lookout for next month's. So we're really excited for this. We know for a fact that there's so many of you have so much to offer and bring to this. And so I'm really looking forward to it. With that, I'm going to pass this back to our Vice President, Bianca, and she's going to have some talk about fundraising.
I think there was a mistake on the link posted for the identity collage. So I'm just posting in the link, just let everyone know.
Yep, sorry.
We'll get that link figured out and repost that to everyone, but do please open that, consider how to post up to that. We're looking forward to your first submissions.
Sorry about that. All right, let's talk about fundraising. I'm going to paste a link in the chat so you can all look at the page and what I'm going to talk about. All right, 25 years is at a landmark event, and we invite our community, you all, and our WASH reporters to join our 25 for 25 challenge. Right, participating is very simple. Right, you can take on a challenge. Like if you click the link, you'll see what I mean. You can take on the challenge by committing to reach out to your network and encourage 25 of your family members, friends, colleagues, and other generous acquaintances to each donate $25. And do you want to take the 25 times 25 a step further? You can get creative and create a physical challenge. So let's see who can come up with the next bucket challenge. All right, so how to get involved. Go to the page, choose your challenge, right? If we scroll down on the page, you see different challenges, right? You can plan a race, the hottest pepper, shave your head, or simply ask like a family member and friends for support. And of course, we appreciate your commitment to our cause. You can also start a fundraising page. So if you go to the link, there is a button called Join, And then you create your own page. You can see this page, and then on this page, you can ask your friends and family to support. Why that is important, I'll tell you later. Then, of course, you're going to like ask your family and friends to post your page on social, email, encourage your network, however you think is best. If just 25 people donate $25, you will hit your goal. And then, of course, like we also need you to raise awareness, grow our community, post some photos on your social, and we have a hashtag for this. I'm going to post that. That's like hashtag AKA 25 times 25. There you go. So use that, and that's why I call fundraising. So $25 like may not seem like much of an impact, but if everybody does it, then we will reach a huge goal, and we are going to use like this money to continue our programming, to sort of mentorship, our forums, like everything we do to build our community and go to the next 25 years of building that. Of course, right, we understand that like many of us are still feeling the impact of the coronavirus, and we also totally understand that not everybody may be in a position to donate. And no matter like how generous your heart may be, we want to thank you for that moment of consideration, and we are definitely seeking to regain normalcy as soon as possible. But there are also prizes to win. So to the point of like starting your own team, it's not only great for Also Known As, but Also Known As can also is also giving out great prizes to win. For example, the team that reaches the goal first, the most funds raised, the craziest challenge, and I'm sure we can think of like more things to give out prizes. So we have a special Samsung BTS earphones in the color ultraviolet, as you see here on the slide. And we also found our fellow adoptee, Kevin Kreider, who has a lot of muscles, but also a lot of talent, to join, to give away one of his virtual training courses to get like as good in shape as Kevin is. And I want to take the opportunity to plug something for Kevin, and I think we can also be really proud of that. Right, his show, Bling Empire, a Netflix show, is premiering, how does that work? Like on this Friday, and it is a show about like really rich Asian people and Kevin. That he is not like only, it is not only right about the rich people. He is also exploring his adoption as well as his birth mother, making an appearance in the show. There's so many things to say about this, but check it out, Bling Empire. I'm going to paste the link to the trailer, like in the chat, so you can also, here, there you go. Oh, Kevin says that he's the main lead in the show, which is definitely like true. I did not like do that justice, Kevin, but thank you for donating your online fitness course. Congratulations on your show, and I cannot wait to see it. So with that, a lot of talking. I'm going to hand it over to the highlight of today, and that is our panel. Over to you, Marissa.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bianca. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Marissa Martin. I am a former president of Also Known As, advisory board, mentorship, mentor, director. So I've been involved for a really long time, and I'm really excited about this panel. I'm gonna link the panelist bios because our panelists are pretty amazing. If you follow our social media, you know that we have been posting them over the last week or so. But we want to make sure that you have all the information for them, and I don't want to take up any space telling you all the amazing information, so we can just dig into the questions and get to know them. So let me just, Mike, are you spotlighting people? Is that?
I can, or should I just, I can turn off the share.
Yeah, if you can turn off the share, that'd be awesome. Excellent. And then, so we're just gonna kick this off. So the thought behind this is that we are celebrating 25 years with Also Known As, which, as you've heard, is just really, really exciting. And so we pulled together a panel of folks who have been involved in the Global Adoptee Community for a very long time and have entered in and out of also known as spaces for the last 25 years. And so we just want to bring in these perspectives, hear about our community, which is really ever changing. I appreciated Mike's remarks just about kind of the foresight that Hollee McGinnis, the founder, as well as the founding board members had when they were creating this organization. And then also just to see how it's evolved and how we've seen the community grow and shift and change. And so I'm really excited. We're gonna dig in, get to know our panelists a little bit more and their experiences within community. And then we invite you, if you have questions, if you can chat them to also known as parentheses Robert. He's going to be putting these together, and then towards the end we'll be digging into questions for panelists from everyone here. So without further ado, if we can just start, our panelists, I invite you all to share your name, where you're adopted from, how long you've been involved in the Global Adoptee Community. And again, you know, we have an amazing panel, Hollee McGinnis, who's the founder, Amanda Baden, Taneka Jennings, Jared Rayberg, and Hope Johnson are all part of this panel. So if we want to kick it off, Hollee, if you want to intro yourself first. Oh, you're muted.
Mute. Okay, I gotta unmute myself. Unmute myself. Am I unmuted?
Yeah, you're unmuted.
Yay! Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. So I'm a Korean adoptee. Was adopted when I was 3.5. I grew up about an hour north of New York City. Am currently living in Richmond, Virginia, the former capital of the Confederacy. Very different space, but I am currently working as an assistant professor in the School of Social Work at Virginia Commonwealth University. So this is really fun to be here. I don't think 25 years ago, I could have imagined the spaces that we would be occupying now. And as I said, it's so exciting to see this organization continue on. So I really look forward to sharing more of my my hindsights, insights, and foresights.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hollee. Jared?
Hello out there. Thank you to the 75 people who came out to support this organization. And congratulations to the board and to every board, actually. It's you know, for me to see organizations come and go, this is a true, you know, testament to the hard work of this organization. And so I'm also known as Vu Tien An. I was born somewhere in Vietnam, and somehow I ended up in an orphanage, and I came to the US at 9 months. Unfortunately, in the 50-year anniversary, I'm going to be 70. So I happily found this organization when I was 30 years old, when I moved to New York City. And I had just begun my journey as an adoptee and as an artist. And thanks to Culture Day and this organization and all the folks that I met, it really was an inspiration to a lot of my life work, whether it be, you know, volunteering at heritage camps, speaking on panels at adoption agencies, or creating music. So thank you so much, all you guys, for being here tonight.
Thanks, Jared. Hope?
Hi, guys. My name is Hope Johnson. I'm adopted from Changzhou, China. And I was adopted when I was 7 months old. I grew up in New York City, and I guess I've been involved with the Global Adoptee Community since I was super young. I was actually in Amanda Baden's workshops and classes when I was younger, as well as like Halt Camp and like different workshops and such. But yeah, no, it's so great to be here. I feel very blessed to be on the panel right now, and I'm excited to share my story with you guys.
Thanks, Hope. Tanika?
Hi, everyone. I am Tanika Jennings, and I'm an honorary, also known as member, I think. And maybe I should be paying member dues. I don't remember the last time I paid. But I actually live in Chicago, but I grew up on the East Coast. And as I shared with the other folks, as we were talking before the event, I really have always appreciated also known as leadership in the space. And also as an East Coaster, I just, you know, I just like New York. I just like the people in New York and that metro area. But, you know, also known as, you know, been such a leader and really important for so many of us. For a while, I served on the board of KATCH. I guess I've been involved in the adoptee community since 2008 and jumped in shortly after and again, was part of KATCH Korean Adoptees of Chicago for a long time. And now I'm working with Adoptees for Justice and some other orgs. So that's me. Hi.
Thanks, Tanika. Amanda?
Hi, folks. My name's Amanda Baden. I'm really excited to be here. I feel like also known as has been a big part of my whole New York time. So I think I met Hollee when I first moved here around probably 2000 or a little before. Yeah, before that. So I'm a psychologist in private practice, but I'm a full-time faculty member, professor at Montclair State University. And I've been studying and researching adoption issues throughout my entire career. It's really exciting that there's an organization that's lasted this long. And I wish that it had been something that had been available when I was younger, but I'm so happy to be able to contribute. I remember when Hope was in my workshops that I did with younger kids, and it's exciting to see a lot of those young women are becoming leaders in the community and growing up, and makes me feel a bit old, I have to say, but it's pretty exciting. So thank you for having me here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Amanda. So as you see, you know, as we're having this conversation about foundations of the global adoptee community, we're referring to, you know, where folks are living now, where folks were adopted from. And it truly is such an impressive community, I think, that I've found as I've gone on. And so, you know, because we are celebrating 25 years of Also Known As, we definitely believe in building community across the globe. But since this is the anniversary, you know, we want to start off by just talking about folks' involvement in Also Known As and how they've stayed in the community. So Hollee, if you can speak to that, again, kind of your involvement with Also Known As, or what drove you to the founding of it, and how you've stayed within the community.
Sure. So I was 24. So anyone here who's in their 20s, there might be an organization or a group for you to start and found. But I'll say that was never in my cards in terms of what I imagine my future and my career would look like. And to me, the seeds of Also Known As, like all of us, began with my personal experience and my personal encounters and questions of why people didn't get who I was and why my family was the way that it was. One of the things my dad always said, that I was pretty stubborn. And in that stubbornness meant that, that I felt the struggle between who I knew myself to be on the inside and who people saw me on the outside. And I didn't know how to reconcile that. So in college, I basically majored in American studies because I was like, I have to figure out, how do I fit in here in American society with this Irish last name, blonde hair mom, and a Korean Asian face. And what I found was that the binary, having to be either a white American or an Asian immigrant, essentially binary, didn't fit for the lived experience that I had. And I realized that there was a space between those binaries that was authentically who I was. And when I had that aha moment, it was so liberating. But when I finished college, I just had to figure out what the hell I wanted to do with my life. So 2 years, I'm living in New York City, bumbling around, trying to figure out who I am. And I get invited to participate in the Landmark Forum. And there is a leadership program called Self-Expression and Leadership. So that program was to say, look at your community and build a program, build something within that community. And so that brought me back to thinking about the fact that I knew from my research or from my undergraduate work that there were like over 200,000 just Korean adoptees alone. So this is now 1995, 96, all the news stories of all the Chinese adoptees were, was really, really prominent. And I said, gosh, I think all of us, maybe as adoptees, have a moment where you're just like, fuck it. Why is my life so complicated? Why can't I just look like my name and my family look like that? And, just easy. And then I had to spin it though and said, well, okay, what can I do with this life that I've been given? And so not everyone gets to have two families. Not everyone gets to have two cultures. Not everyone gets to have all of that. And so as I began to think about both the challenges growing up, and I grew up at a time similar to Amanda, where there weren't really that many culture camps or anything like that. Some adoptive parents were organizing, and actually my mom told me, oh yeah, there were groups like that when you were little, but I thought that was only for people who had problems. And I was like, she didn't think the community could actually be not for problems and just like helpful. So that's where this idea or the seed of like, gosh, growing up, it would have been really wonderful to have had role models and mentors of people who had families that look like mine. And so that was the seed of the project. And that was the seed of Also Known As. And go back 1996, the internet, people are just starting to get onto it. If you got onto the internet, it was through AOL. And so as I conceived of this idea of a mentorship program where adult adoptees could mentor the next generation of international transracial adoptees, I didn't know how to find them. So there wasn't like a Google search to go just find adoptees. So I literally, worked the phone. And what I found was adoption agencies at first were really reticent to work with me. There had been adult adoptee activists before me, which I didn't know, but they didn't trust me. And the adoptive parents didn't really trust me either. 24, 25 years ago. So I realized that it was more important for me to be heard. And so I learned how to speak in a way that was not threatening in some ways, so that I could get to the parents, so that I could get to the agency, so that I could actually reach the next generation of kids that I wanted them to know they weren't alone. And as we worked through that, we came, so I love sharing this story of there was the Asian Heritage Festival in May at Lincoln Center. And so I literally went from table to table to table saying, hi, I'm a Korean adoptee. I'm starting a group for adult adoptees. If you know anyone, here's my card. And so that's how you found adoptees. And what I found was that there were some really active adoptive parents. That's where I got to meet Miha, Hyun, and her mom. And we, Also Known As, ended up taking over that culture day. But as we began to, myself and all the founding members, really think through, it was really clear to me that our identities, the metaphor I had at that time was being on a fence. It's like if you were a hyphenated identity, that wasn't a very stable place to be. Like sitting on a picket fence, going up your butt, like that's not a place, that's not a space. But selfishly, I felt that, but gosh, there's like hundreds of thousands of us. And if we all got together on that fence, the fence would collapse and we would have a space and we would be able to claim our identity. And that's why when starting Also Known As, I didn't want it to be called Adopted Korean Association, because I really saw that what we were creating was a space for us to explore all of our identities. I never wanted to be known just as a Korean adoptee. I wanted to also be known as many other things, as whatever I wanted to claim, because I realized that the question, who am I, is only answered by your declaration of who I am. So also known as was really this idea to create a space where we could claim our identities. And so that was really the empowerment part of it, to empower adult adoptees to create themselves. And then what we found is that part of who we are, then it's like, what do you do with the life you've been given, right? So part of who we could be in these crazy international transracial families that don't fit into all the boxes is be a bridge. So the idea of building bridges and connections, not only to ourselves and to the things that we have lost in terms of our biological families and cultures and that sort of thing, but reconnecting also to all of them for our communities and families, and really honoring all of who we are, which is our birth and our adoption. And then transform was the third piece of the vision for also known as, and that one was always a little trickier. And I think that one ultimately is a personal one. Again, back to the question, okay, what if this was the life you were meant to have? What if, and could you accept this life that's not easy? It is complicated, What could you do with that to transform something about the world, to make it a better place? Because what I became really clear on was that I always knew who I was. It was society who said I couldn't be in that family because you're not blood, you're not nationality, you're not race, you're so different, you can't never belong to that family. But I knew that I could. And so to me, the problem then, or the work really is transforming conversations about race, difference, and who we can love, and what boundaries necessarily separate us from loving. So while I am so deeply immersed in the challenges and the way that international adoption and adoptions in general have historically been practiced, which has been a practice of cutting off adoptees rather than expanding adoptees to their wholeness of who they are, I also see or feel very much that we have a story to tell, that we can do something with our lives that, especially in this moment in our history in America, the world needs it. The world needs to know that you can love across races, across nationalities, across cultures. And they have to know that it's not easy at all. And in fact, it might be the hardest work you might ever do. But that was kind of the seeds of also known as. And, the vision is a vision of a world in which, we're different, but it doesn't kill each other. So anyway.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Hollee. So much there, and just incredible to think about you thinking about this 25 years ago, and then creating also known as. Now, going to you, Jared, can you speak to just, I know you had mentioned briefly that you came to a culture day and you encountered also known as, in your 30s, but just, what brought you in, and just sort of what your involvement with the also known as community, but also the Vietnamese community, the Vietnamese adoptee community, and your experiences there.
Yeah, Holly just reminded me of the movie I just watched called Soul, on the Disney movie about the jazz piano player in the cat, and how in the theory the souls are up there and the souls get assigned to come down to earth, and I think I'm pretty lucky in that way, to have found in college. I found out my mom sent me an invite to a gathering for my orphanage. And this is 1995, and I had never had any exposure to my orphanage or Vietnam adoptees to that extent. So I was a hippie kind of kid, took my long hair and all my hippie clothes, and I went down there to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Mechanicsburg, and I was exposed as soon as I got out of the car. There was 30 Vietnamese adoptees, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say, and I wasn't really ready yet. It wasn't until 2000 where there was a national gathering of Vietnamese adoptees, and I had the chance to meet a lot of them, and that inspired me to look into that side of my life I never wanted to face. But I'm happy to say it was something I'm very happy that I took the time to look at. From Connecticut, and it was really, I was playing an open mic in Chinatown and meeting all these Asian Americans for the first time, and it was just really, something that I look back on today, and I'm thinking, oh wow, that must have been easy, but it really wasn't at the time, because I was being treated like someone I'd never been treated like before. I was being treated like I was an Asian person in New York City. So that was very, different for me. And so being a part of the Culture Day and organization and being able to see, all these younger adoptees and all the great happy hours, and to be able to know that, if there was someone out there I wanted to talk to, there was somebody. So that was a really great, support. And obviously when it came to opportunities to kind of grow as an adoptee, it was through speaking on panels, through writing songs, through sharing other people's stories, through traveling, and being able to bring all those stories together. It helped me create my own identity that I was proud of, to be able to be, Jared Rayberg. When I was a kid, I was called Skittles, I was called a jazz monkey, I was called all these other things, but as an adult, I was actually proud of being, Jared Rayberg. And now I'm 46, I'm married with a 6-year-old daughter, and, just, about 3 months ago, she found my CD and she put it in the player, and she's like, who's that? And so I had the chance to start talking to her about my adoption journey. And then obviously for 6 years old, she told me to turn off my music because it was too sad and too slow. But again, I'm just really inspired by all the adoptees now that are making films, making music, who are writing papers, leading organizations. And I'm so glad to carry that torch. And again, if I do make it to the 50-year, anniversary, that would be pretty cool to see all your faces again.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. And just as a note, we try to celebrate every 5 years. So, so there's more that you can come to. It doesn't have to be just 25. We celebrate these small victories. So moving to you, Hope, I know Amanda spoke about how she remembers when you were in groups. I remember being a youth and teen mentor with you. So can you share a little bit just about how you entered into Also Known As, what has kept you involved? And, in other spaces, I know you were involved within the Chinese adoptee community, and if you can speak to that as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been involved with AKA since, I don't even remember when, probably like the youth mentorship when I was like 9 or something. I honestly texted my mom today. I was like, when did I start AKA? And she doesn't remember either. So my parents honestly enrolled me and my sister, who's also adopted and 2 years younger, adopted from a different part of China, into many adoptee organizations, and like Holt Camp, Amanda Baden workshops, Jane Brown workshops, like everything when we were younger. But I feel like also the fact that we were so bombarded with all this stuff when we were younger, we were just like, okay, I get it, we're adopted, but we were also just like 9 years old. We were so young. But at first I was like, this is like so stupid. At first I was like 9 years old. And but I was also personally a very like shy and awkward kid, and the fact that the youth and the teen mentorship programs, they had a lot of events where it's like rock climbing and just like normal kid activities where you can just do it comfortably with other kids and not even talk about that, and not even knowing that you have to talk about it, or you didn't even know what that was because you were so young. That honestly kept me going. Like the activities, like once, like was it once a month every Saturday, one Saturday, I don't even remember, but it kept me going. And then I grew up in the city, and eventually you go to college and you're completely separated from the entire community again. And once you come back to the city, a lot of people are back there again together, and you kind of regroup because a lot of friends who were your friends in high school move out of the city. So it was a nice group to hang out with and be super comfortable with, like no judgments, I became very like good friends and like lifelong, I made very good lifelong friends after that as well. And then also for the Chinese community is, so I actually haven't been involved in FCC for a while. So FCC is Families with Children from China. So that was a whole other thing. And I actually, since I've attended a lot of AKA events, and like I'm now on the board, I haven't actually been involved in a lot of specifically Chinese or like events, to be honest. But now that I'm seeing it, now I guess in the bigger picture right now, the fact that a lot of like Chinese adoptees are coming back to the city, or like now it's a pandemic, so it's like whatever, it's different. So we're all coming back together and becoming like one as a whole, because the one-shot policy like was banned and stuff now. So like we're just all like the Chinese adoptees, we're just like there in the city, and I'd meet people in the city like through events and stuff like that, and just it'd be random, and I'd like rope people in. I've roped a bunch of people in from like going to like food events or like music events, because I do like music and food when it's not a pandemic. But yeah, that's I see this going upwards in the future, at least to me.
Awesome, thanks, Hope. So Tanika, switching gears a bit, being involved in both KATCH and Adoptees for Justice, how have you seen the community grow and shift? And how have the identities of the adoptees shifted and actions shifted, touching on adoptees as immigrants and so forth?
Yeah, thank you, Marissa. It's a really great and deep question. I just try to keep my my response brief. But first, I just want to say a shout out to fellow KATCH members and also HANA Center people who are with us. And I forgot to mention earlier that I'm also, it's in the bio that was shared, by also serve as the Deputy Director of Programs for the HANA Center, which is a Chicago-based, I always say immigrant rights and social services group. So pretty much we do advocacy and organizing and try to meet critical needs of Korean American and immigrant communities. So I think the best way to describe the shift that I've seen, I think it's really reflective of some of the things that all of the other panelists have already shared. I think in particular, a lot of what Hollee shared in terms of like all that went into the founding of Also Known As. I think over the years, many folks who've been involved much longer than I have and I've been involved since around 2008. They could tell you there's been this sort of natural trajectory, I think, in the community where we've gone, I think, from critical identity development as adoptees who, you know, have experienced isolation a lot of times in a lot of different forms, and whether we're transracial adoptees, inter-country adoptees, both, many of us. And then from that critical identity building space, then community building, right? And that gets to, I think, how we deconstruct the narratives that, you know, again, as Hollee was referring to earlier, the narratives that other people have put on us, right, to define us. And we start to redefine ourselves and create new narratives as a community. And so that really critical work. And then once we find community, I think there's that natural progression towards, and we want to give back, right? That's like the awesome mentoring group that also known as in other organizations throughout, you know, the US and other areas have. It's, you know, a lot of other forms of giving back, you know, like this kind of event that groups are doing. Sharing cultural resources, right? Getting together on important holidays, like for Koreans, it's like Chuseok, Solal, right? Creating those cultural homes. And then from there, I think we're seeing a really big shift these days towards more like organizing and advocacy and a desire for movement building. I think, again, like it's very natural for us as adoptees in some ways as we grow our own political analysis and our own rootedness as people who have been impacted by systems, right? People who have experienced some, you know, degrees of injustice, for us to then, as we start to know our own stories, want to first change that for ourselves as adoptees and for each other, and then to be able to want to build connections with other impacted communities. And I think a couple ways we see that building out is inter-country adoptees as immigrants, right? I think we all probably witnessed in the past few years, particularly during the Trump administration, with all the attack on immigrant communities, that more and more adoptees are like, I don't know if, you know, I'm trying to think like what's the best word. I don't know what the best word is, but, you know, really acknowledging, you know, the roots and how we came to this country, and that we are immigrants, right? We did all immigrate here, and really breaking down some of the stereotypes that we can have in our own community about what does it mean to be an immigrant, and really owning that. And then I think the other one is transracial adoptees as people of color, right? So many of us, myself included, were trained in our families that our families don't see race, right? They just, I grew up in a white family, right? So they just love us for who we are, and that's great, right? But along with that is, and silently comes along with an expectation of whiteness, right? An expectation of model minorityness. And so as transracial adoptees, really pushing back against that, and building solidarity with other communities of color. And I think particularly there's this, you know, national and international awakening around global anti-Blackness, and how that's at the root of really pretty much every injustice, right, that there is. And how do we as transracial adoptees and inter-country adoptees then understand our space and our place in that. And I think if we acknowledge that we are people of color, if we see that, if we see ourselves, you know, as immigrants, you know, too, then it's not just as like allies that we're supporting, but it's as impacted people who are also allies. And I think there's a richer meaning in that, and an ability to build. And so, you know, Adoptees for Justice is a group of just, sometimes I feel like we're a ragtag group. I don't know. Other days I feel really, you know, we feel really powerful. Just depends on how things are going. But basically just a group of inter-country adoptees, some without citizenship and some with citizenship, who really believe that all of us should have citizenship. And that's not a guaranteed right for many adoptees in this country. And so this work has been going on, you know, for a very long time. And I think it's really exciting to get to be part of a group that's a little more formalized through Adoptees for Justice. Previously, you know, was part of Adoptee Rights Campaign, and to just kind of see these groups evolving, where we're creating more of a political home for adoptees who now are activated and want to do more.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tanika, for lifting up all of those really important identities and questions that a lot of adoptees go through. And so moving to you, Amanda, you know, as someone who has years of experience researching and studying adoption, you know, what are some of the themes that you have seen regarding the importance of the adoptee community and the, you know, just the importance of community, and then anything else that you've seen and want to lift up?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, for the past, I guess, about 25 years, I have been doing research and studying and trying to understand the adoptee experience. I think for a long time, within the professional literature and within the professional world, adoptees were talked about by adoptive parents, by people who weren't adopted. And so to me, I thought a lot of times that was not really informed by what is really happening for adopted people. So one of my goals has always been to shift the narrative to really give adoptees a voice. And I think a lot of the community building that's been done by groups like AKA and KATCH and all the groups around the country has been to give adoptees that ability to advocate and have a voice, and shift from being the infantilized study subjects to starting to critique what's happening in the world and what's happening to adoptees themselves. You know, I think as groups build and gain recognition, it also allows them to be able to say, there shouldn't be any conversations about us without us in it, without us having some role in that. So I think that, you know, initially for a lot of folks, we know that adoptee community opportunities can kind of normalize and universalize the adoption experience. A lot of kids, I mean, Hope's experience is unique because it's New York, so there were a lot of things here, and not all cities where people were adopted to have that. But a lot of places have culture camps that people have been going to, and I think, Jared, I know you've been involved in those a lot. And I used to work at Korean culture camp. I was sort of always the honorary Korean adoptee, even though I'm a Hong Kong adoptee. So, you know, in those experiences, though, I really believe that what's happening is that those culture camps give a little bit of an introduction to what the culture is of the birth country, but really they're sort of adoptee socialization opportunities where adoptees start to learn to talk about what it is to be adopted, and they get to be with people who understand their stories quickly, and they don't have to give all of the explanations that can sometimes be so exhausting and so annoying when people ask all the questions that are intrusive and don't really understand, show that they don't really understand. I think community makes the adoption community, like now that we have more and more adult adoptees who've become scholars and researchers, it's super exciting for me to see, because for a long time I felt like I was the only, you know, I was there kind of alone and trying to make, trying to have people hear our voices. So now as I think we're getting to get to a point where we're getting to write some of the work that needs to be understood. Let's see. The advocacy piece that I think that Tanika was talking about this really beautifully, about the idea of having this voice for making sure that adoptees' experiences are better. So getting them citizenship, for example, is something that I think that those kinds of efforts came about as a result of building these communities. You know, I think that an individual in isolation wouldn't have nearly the sort of effect as a group of adoptees with a shared goal and with a lot of the different insights that they've gained as a result of their experiences. I think that community is a place where we start looking at identity. You know, adoption and identity, they are two hugely intersecting ideas, right? So adoptees are always trying to figure out who they're supposed to be. And Hollee was talking about that, right? What's this name and this face when they don't match? How do we make sense of who we are? How do we represent ourselves to other people? And so I think that these communities allow adoptees to start to get some of that language and some of those ideas about how you can start to fit in. Now, having been in clinical practice for over 20 years, I can also say that adoptees have, you know, there's a common thread that a lot of adoptees come to therapy for around issues of identity and belonging and relationships. And sometimes adoptees believe that even communities of other adoptees may not fit for them. They may feel that marginalized from groups that represent them. And so having places like AKA, though, is something that's so accessible, especially now with the pandemic, it's so accessible with all of these virtual meetings. I think it allows people to dip their toe in and see how it can benefit them, and that maybe they're not so unrelatable as they might expect. So as we challenge the infantilization that adoptees often experience, you know, trying to get ourselves heard as adults and not just children is an important role. And I think that groups like Also Known As have done a really great job of making that case. You know, the group has been, has developed a reputation of being professional and organized, and therefore getting more and more power within the community, and that power helps lift all of us up.
Awesome. So. Thanks so much, Amanda. So just a reminder to everyone, if you have any questions for the panel, to send them to Robert. He is under Also Known As parentheses Robert. So just moving in, and this is open to whoever wants to answer it, or all of you. What advice, you know, we've heard this amazing arc sort of all of the thinking that went behind building out Also Known As, creating Also Known As. We've heard about how folks entered this space in different places, as well as how community was built in Chicago, as well as nationally with Adoptees for Justice. And we know that there's a ton of other groups as well, just because we couldn't have all of the groups represented here. But we, you know, across the country, across the globe, it felt very unfair to ask our, you know, our friends in Europe to join us, or in Korea with the time difference. But really, you know, hearing all of that, you know, what advice would you give to other adoptee organizations or other adoptees who are, you know, those 20-year-olds who are thinking about it and maybe want to start something that are being formed? What advice would you give to them? And then also, just, you're all involved in so many different ways. You know, how can people get involved in the work in the communities that you're part of? So whoever wants to, please jump in. And again, for folks who are joining, just please send us questions if you have any.
So I'll jump in.
Yeah, go for it, Hollee.
My advice is that this is not about you. While it involves you, it's not about you. And I often say, I was very selfish in starting Also Known As. It was a group that I needed. And yet I knew it wasn't about me. And so that's why in starting the group, the vision was beyond what any single person could do. And it was so vital for me to step away from leadership of the organization. And because this group was for the community. And me not having an so identifying myself and my value with the organization and being able to step away and being able to say, the group will continue if the community still needs it, if people continue to step in. And what I am so humbled by is, as Mike said in the very beginning, all the adoptees who have stepped in and continue to step into these spaces of leadership, so that you create spaces for other people to come and join wherever you're at. I always know the greatest growth you'd get is by becoming a board member. So I'd always try to recruit people because it is in leading and doing it, the leadership part of it, that's where you'll grow the most. But I also know that that's not for everyone. That's not what everyone needs to do. And so it's always an invitation. There's never a have to. And Amanda and I, we've had long conversations about, there is no single adoptee identity. There is no goalposts that we're all running toward. There's no finish line. It is just a constant process of emergence. I wouldn't think that I still would have questions I'm 49 now, but I still do. Because when you start to go down this rabbit hole, it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and richer and richer and richer. And I understand things about adoption that I never would have known at 24 had I not started this conversation and community with others. So I think my best bit of advice is, if you want to start a group, it's not about you. It will be about, make it be about the group, and make it be about elevating the group, not dominating and controlling. And I think that that's also so, what I see in all of the leadership through the 25 years is the leadership, you fight. I know what board meetings can be like. But at the end of the day, I know everyone's heart is trying to create a place for people to heal. And for you to heal, you need to explore. And in order to explore, you have to feel safe. And so that's another reason why I think Also Known As has been so successful, is that we're really nurturing our community and making a stand for wherever you're at is exactly where you're supposed to be, and you're not alone.
Awesome. So thank you, folks. I see that we have a few questions coming in, so that is awesome. But I do want to see if anyone else wants to answer the question around advice you would give.
Yeah, I can top off of Holly's message. I totally agree with everything he just said. Claps to that. So the notes that I wrote down for the answer also was like, make sure everyone can work well together, especially if they're like board members, and just staying kind and being open, especially being with new members, because like this is my second year on the board, but this is also during a pandemic, so this was completely different. And so thinking back when I was back in mentorship, it was like one thing that for like advice to give other adoptee organizations, like have a variety of activities for different kinds of people with different personalities, to kind of just like, you can look forward to the event on the Saturday or something like that. And that's what actually kept me personally going. And like, they're kind of different activities, kind of like sports and like arts and like forums. And the forum stuff, to me, when I was younger, I was like, this stuff is so stupid. Like, I was like, so like, I didn't even know what to think about it. So, but it probably clicked with other adoptees and stuff like that. So just a variety of things for the kids if you're starting an organization with younger children and stuff like that. It's very important. But yeah.
So I would say be realistic, you know, for folks that are balancing their day jobs, and if you have kids and so it's being realistic and not being too ambitious. I mean, I have some experience where I just was so burnt out. I mean, sometimes when you step outside of what you're doing, you know, I kind of, in a weird way, saw myself, you know, just doing the work and not feeling what I was doing. But when I started feeling what I was doing, that got really heavy. So, you know, and then again, to look at your own life, look at what surrounds you, and then make that decision, you know, because people are looking up to you, you know, and again, having that amazing board to support you, and, you know, making sure everyone's on the same page. It's not about making any money, you know, so just kind of get that out of the way. It should not be about getting famous. You know, again, it's just, you know, I never had anything like this when I was growing up. So, you know, it's that true value, and people will look to you as, you know, as a leader in that sense. So again, my biggest advice is be realistic. Don't be too ambitious, because once you burn out, it's really hard to get back up. And yeah.
Amanda, you were gonna jump in and say something?
Yeah, the advice I was gonna give was, and I really echo what everyone else is saying here, but you know, I think that I think it's important to know yourself and to feel like you understand where your strengths are and where your challenges are, because if you you know, it's important to have worked out some of your issues, and it's good to work it out sometimes in groups, but sometimes also individually in therapy. There's somebody else who's joined us, I see.
New panelist.
Yes, I know. Do you like your dad's music? But I was also going to add that, you know, sometimes people approach like figuring these things out from different directions. Like, I know for me, the way when I didn't think there were many, I didn't know many adoptees, and I approached it by, you know, from a sort of academic, intellectualized direction, and other people approach it from a more social direction or what have you. And so figure out what works best for you, that there isn't a single right way to do it.
I could since I could add into and I can totally feel like I'm like, oh, I could listen to like your advice for a long time. I'm ready to hear more, but I don't have too much to add. I really resonated with you know, everything that everyone else said. The first thing that came to my mind really was like, it's not about you. And then the second thing was be grounded, you know yourself. I think the only things that maybe I would add is when in thinking that it's not about any one person's agenda, but it does have to be about something, right? So I think really knowing, and I think also known as has done a really amazing job at this, knowing what your mission is, what's your purpose, what are the principles that guide you, right? And as adoptees, there's going to be particular themes, right, that are recurring in a lot of our groups: identity development, you know, cultural connection, you know, just building that safe community. But I think really being intentional about mission can help when the going will get tough. It just will. When this kind of work, especially because, like Jared was saying, is volunteer led. I think as part of being grounded and rooted, something that was really helpful for me is to be mentored. And, you know, I didn't necessarily ask for my adoptee mentors. They were just around, and they found me. But I've just had the most amazing mentors. It just so happens for me, most of them were women in my life who were Korean adoptees, who were a little bit older. And I still remember my very first documentary about the international adoption like system and how it came to be, and just having a total like eye-opening moment and shift in how I understood myself that took me a long time to grapple with and even accept that was the larger systemic reality of my personal existence. So challenging, and just I can't say enough about the incredible, you know, mentors that I've had. And I think just having folks who can affirm you and support you, because there is an aspect of it that's about you. Hopefully it's not like the entire direction of the organization, but more of a groundedness and a rootedness that will, I think, like give back in spades and how the group grows and how the leadership grows, at least from my experience.
Awesome. Thank you. So much wisdom on this panel. It's amazing. And yeah, definitely, you know, am so appreciative to many people on this panel who have served as mentors to me. So just switching gears a bit, just, you know, the themes of support have come up, and just identity, and Amanda, you spoke to a lot of this. And so we have a question just about, you know, as we are in community, what can we do to better address adoptee suicide? And in addition to standard efforts to raise awareness and sharing hotlines. So I know that, you know, there are efforts that are always done each year. You sort of see this lifted up. But, you know, as a community, here we are, you know, what more could the community do? Yeah, and this is open to all. I didn't just call on it. I mean, definitely Amanda, but if anyone else has anything to add, please do.
It's a very important question. I think that when it comes to mental health, it makes a lot of people uncomfortable even talking about it. And so I think one of the things to really help manage this issue is to create open spaces for people to feel support and to be able to come out of the shadows with those feelings. To have a network of support is really important. But we know that a lot of suicidal attempts are very impulsive. And so people can not seem so, unhappy, and then feel completely surprising others when they make an attempt. So some of it is really just helping people start to think about other ways they can cope with different feelings, because a lot of times we have our go-to responses. If something happens, we get upset. This is how we always handle it. But that's not always a positive coping style. And so learning other ways that are more effective, learning ways that, and learning to reach out to others when you know perhaps your pattern is to be impulsive, your pattern is to really start to decompensate. I'm trying to think of a better word for it, but to really not do so well in community. So I think having some more of those talks, having people start to acknowledge where some of those things come from. You know, there's a lot of trauma within, adoptees experience trauma, no question about it. The way we cope with that trauma varies widely. Some folks cope with it pretty openly, and some people try and suppress it. And the suppressing, I think, is probably the most dangerous. So figuring out resources for folks to be able to get help and to find supports for people is really, I think, a first step. But, I feel like I could keep going on about this. So I don't want to take up too much time, but, this current political situation, I know we haven't really talked about it explicitly, but there's a lot of families where there's a lot of pain because of people having different sides on this political spectrum. And I think that also has really contributed to it, where folks feel lost and alone and unseen within their families. But when that happens, it can be particularly dangerous. So again, finding ways to support people and have the options for talking about it and communicating is really, I think, a good help.
And just what I would want to add is the fact of the matter is the body of research has studied adoptees as children and adolescents and a little bit into young adulthood, but not very well into adulthood. And I just want to put a pitch out there that I'll be starting up a study looking at adult mental health, physical health, and mental health of adult adoptees, because we don't know the full extent of the challenges and how those models that we had for how adoption adds risk, in childhood and adolescent will look like in adulthood. And then in adulthood, you have a lot more variables happening also. You have parenthood, you have job, you have, so all of those additional stressors are really important, but we don't fully understand. And I think, like Amanda said, we very rarely have included systemic factors like racism in considering how adoptee, and especially transracial adoptee mental health is. So.
Awesome, thank you. I mean, there was an additional question, and I think we can either use the chat to answer this, but are there any books, videos, or other resources that an adoptee can look at who is struggling with their identity and racial issues or any other adoption related issues? And I just know, and also just asking specifically recommended for a teenager, I just know looking at this panel that I'm sure that we, could come up with, with at least 100. So I don't want to have everyone be spouting it off. So if you do have things and you want to put it into the chat, that would be awesome. And then we can also, I'll connect with the panelists and Mike and figure out how to get folks who join this call a list of resources like that. And to that point, when I moved to New York, I learned about a lot of adoptee therapists like Amanda and many others. And I would just have this list, because very often when I was on the board of Also Known As, people would ask, I'm looking for somebody who understands adoption, because it's incredible how many, therapists and mental health providers actually don't know anything about adoption. And so I had this list. So I would just launch that off to everyone. Awesome. So yeah, if you have any resources and you want to share them in the chat, that would be great. So shifting, there was also a question, and I going back into our community, what do you all wish to see the adoptee community accomplish? I mean, that's a really big question. So I love it how, you all gave some really poignant advice about, in building an organization, but in the larger community, our global community, what do you wish to see the community accomplish? Yeah, go ahead, Jared. I think you're muted.
Unmute, Jared. Unmute.
Mute, yeah.
Jared, you're on mute.
Jared.
Mute will get you every time. Awesome. Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to see more leaders. I'd love to see adoptees run for president. I'd love to see adoptees run for Congress. I'd like to see, more adoptee. I think that, one of the things that, me personally, I liked growing up is an adoptee role model, or an Asian American role model. Bruce Lee wasn't good enough, for everybody. So, so nowadays you have, really, more options, obviously. But yeah, I'd like to see, a database. That'd be really, it's a dream. Have a whole international adoptee database to be able to be a part of our place on this planet. And I just want to add a quick thought on the suicide thing. I think a lot of the times that I spent at at heritage camps, I viewed that regionally the issues were very, very different. When I talked to a young girl, a young boy from Nebraska in the middle of nowhere, compared to someone who lives in California, LA or something. So again, some of the roots, of the suicide, that I've seen in my time, some of it had to do with, sexual orientation and having to face their families. So I think that for me, I would love to see, again, more, campaigns of, I get you, and just finding that one moment where you can reach that one adoptee that says, I'm not alone. You don't have to go to a happy hour. You don't have to go to a meeting. Just being able to be that voice that's over here, that's, not in direct contact, just saying, hey, I've been there, I've done that. I don't know what it's like living in Nebraska, but if you ever get a chance to come to New York, or LA, you'll see a lot of Asian people, because once you leave big cities, it's crazy where you're like, where are all the Asian people? So.
My hope is that adoptees know that you are more than your adoption. You are more than your adoption. And to know that you're more than your adoption, you have to intimately know your adoption. So you have to do this work. You have to understand how adoption has shaped you, formed you, because only in knowing it can you unknow it. Can you undo it? Can you then begin to strip it off and be just who you are? So that would be my hope for the community.
Awesome. Thanks, Holly. Others?
Amanda, you're on mute.
It's happening again. It's getting that point. We're in the hour and a half mark.
I was planning not to do that at all. But, you know, my hope is more around a way to benefit adoptees. And that is, I really wish that I've been trying for a while to try and encourage all training programs for mental health professionals to include training on adoption. And my wish is that that would become something that was universally included so that it wasn't so hard to find therapists for adoptees who could help them where they would feel heard and understood. And I also hope that the feeling of, the feeling that a lot of adoptees as people of color feel of danger and fear in our society, that I hope that that changes and it doesn't continue to feel like that they're targeted so much.
I could go next. I think, you know, in addition to shared, I feel like for me, I have a little pipe dream when it comes to the Korean adoptee community. I just want their communities to kind of understand the landscape that would have a position in the Korean is my internet.
Yeah.
But
breaking up. Say it again, Tanika.
Permanent position in the Korean government that is an adoptee, a person who advocates for the well-being and the priorities of Korean adoptees globally, and our human rights, you know, and as part of that, you know, there's a lot of intersectional issues when it comes to, you know, for example, single mothers in Korea, and I'm sure there's similar things in other ethnic groups. And I say that, you know, as part of a broader, you know, hope that we can continue to grow our leadership in these spaces and then be the agents of change to change those systems that we didn't have the power to change when they impacted us. So that we would just in this and in our, that's it kind of, and as part of that, we would also be able to mobilize our increasingly to be better allies for communities that intersect with our own, right? Whether it's about race, you know, gender, disability, you know, et cetera, ability, you know, that we would look into our impact identities ourselves and then strong agents there.
Thanks, Tanika. Hope, any?
Yes, so my goals aren't like, there's not like one big goal in like a certain amount of time, but I feel like every day, even, so it's great being on, well, it's not great, but it's like good being on social media. Like that's the only platform you have to just like rope in like other adoptees who seem kind of lost or like don't even know about any adoptee communities. And before the pandemic, I would like go to, I said before, like I'd randomly meet adoptees who didn't know AK existed in the city or like other adoptee communities in the city. And it's fun now because during, well, not, it's not fun, but like during the pandemic. Like I got on TikTok and I like met, and like for on the For You page, there are like a bunch of adoptees like just like protesting against like Black Lives Matter and like all the bullshit that's been happening recently. And I've been connecting with them via like social media platforms, and I've been telling them like, oh, are you part of AKA, or have you heard of this, or have you heard of like FCC? And they're like, no, I haven't. So that's actually been, it's not like a goal, but it's just like it is my goal, but it's like a step-by-step goal, I guess, throughout this period of time. And I've been meeting other adoptees online and just trying to like inform them about AKA, and just for when the pandemic, whatever, when it goes back to normal, I guess, I'm just like, hey, like come hang out, or come to, I give them the Zoom links for stuff we're doing now, because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring us. So that's my take.
Awesome. Thanks, Hope. And you sort of addressed a question that was brought up of just, you know, what's a good way to reach out if somebody wants to be a mentor when you don't have a local adoptee organization in your city. And, you know, the first thing that came to mind was social media, right? Because you can just get connected. You can get, like, I had a friend who moved to Indiana, and I reached out to Tanika and was like, do you know anyone in Indiana who's adopted? And like, we tried to make connections in that way. So my thing was like, get on social media, you know, join some of these groups and you'll find some of those people. But if anyone else has other advice, please feel free to share.
No, totally. It's also, I didn't know, Holly, that you were in Indiana, actually. You're here.
Oh, yeah, she's in Virginia. Holly's in Virginia.
I'm in Virginia.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I was in the Midwest for 9 years, so St. Louis.
Wow. So those are also like, those would be amazing accomplishments if everyone's accomplishment, you know, representation and education and connection and community could all happen. It would be incredible. So I want to be conscientious of time. And so I'll ask a final question, and I just ask that all of you answer it. It's sort of a fun question to end this celebration, because we know if we were doing this in person, you know, we'd be hanging out, it'd probably be really loud and everyone would be yelling. And so my question for you is, you know, just reiterating, you know, how can people get involved? And then just also, this is a space for you to share what you're, like, Holly, you kind of alluded to it, but just any work or anything that you're working on or you're involved in, to just have this space, because we're so grateful for you all and your time that you've given to us, to just sort of plug the stuff that you're working on. And then if you can answer this question, what have you been doing, you know, that's fun during this chaotic time? So. Is there anyone who would like to jump in first?
Jared, I hope you're making music.
All right, I'll go. So things I'm working on, let's see, well, I am always gonna be supporting heritage camps for adoptive families out in Colorado. They do have online programs, and hopefully the camp will be back. There's 11 different camps. I work with the ATG in Dallas. There is a Asian American college scholarship that's available for folks that are studying in the arts. Hope, if you want to write a song together sometime, that'd be awesome. I know you're a great piano player and guitar player and everything. And, you know, one of my goals when I started writing music was to work with other adoptees. And my last album, I had a chance to write 3 songs with 3 different adoptees. So yeah, I've been checking some of your stuff out. It's pretty cool. And yeah, again, thank you all for being here tonight. And it's just so great to see familiar faces. And yeah.
What are you, what's making you happy during this chaotic time? Oh, I think you froze. Is anything making you happy during this chaotic time?
You know, spending time with my daughter and my wife, really, and, you know, just even though it feels like we're trapped, it's actually really nice to have that time to get to know them and kind of be together and not be like 1,000 different places. Because when I was her age, I had practice for soccer and gymnastics and all this, and the school play, all that stuff. So I'm really going to cherish the time we have together during this pandemic.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. Hope, I saw that you had unmuted yourself. Do you want to go or no?
I was just responding right quick to him, but I... Question?
Just if you want to plug anything that you're working on. I mean, I know you're also known as board member, so this whole thing is a celebration. But also just what are you doing that makes you happy during this chaotic time?
Well, yeah, playing music, cooking a lot. I'm very grateful and lucky I'm actually in Cambridge, New York. I'm at my boyfriend's parents' house right now, and they're very chill with like buying ingredients and letting me cook all day and test things out, which I couldn't do at this capacity, like without paying huge amounts of money for like ingredients and stuff. So cooking is a huge thing, and I've also taken up skiing as well. So I'm skied for the fourth time in my life. Yes, like 2 days ago. So I'm working on that.
Nice. Awesome.
I can put in a small plug for, so I have been one of the organizers of the St. John's Montclair State Adoption Initiative conferences that have taken place over the past 20 years. And we were supposed to have our 20th anniversary this past October. And then we moved it to next October. But because we are intent on having it as an in-person conference, we're going to plan to have it actually in March 2022 in New York City. So we hope that people will consider attending, submitting. It's a conference that focuses on understanding some of the mental health issues around adoption, but also really just a focus on adoption in a lot of ways, and a lot of adult adoptees end up also coming. In terms of fun, well, I often think about what would happen if we didn't have Netflix and everything. This happened when I was my daughter's age in 8th grade. I don't know what we would have done. So I think I'm trying to watch everything. So.
We would have had to talk to each other and board games. What's that? No. Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. And if you have information about the conference and you want to drop it in the chat, please definitely do so.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I just want to make a plug again. Hopefully in the next couple of months, you'll see an announcement asking for adult adoptee participants on a national study looking at our mental health and other well-being. And I am, it's kind of like a cycling around. I think I'm figuring out how to make sense of my own personal story. And for me, I had a health crisis this time last year with a breast cancer diagnosis. So that opened up a whole nother aspect of growing old and adopted. And I have been writing my way through that all of last year and will continue to do so, and hope at some point I'll be able to share that more widely. So if you have, I think that's part of also, even with, working with Amanda on this particular project as well, saying we have to understand how these childhood adversities live in our body. and they might not show up when we're younger, but the body wears down. And so that's a big part of what I see my future work really looking at, because we're all getting older. What I've been doing to manage, well, my husband, who's also a Korean adoptee, is a phenomenal cook. And so hope you're giving many gifts to those you love, because he can basically cook up. He just made Korean fried chicken this week, like the double fry and the spices. And because it's hard to get a lot of the stuff anyway, there is a banchan down in Richmond. Yes. But hard to get to. So I've been eating my way through the pandemic, and now I've decided that I need to get in shape. So if you're a Facebook friend, you'll see me. I just joined Peloton. They kick butt. I don't have a bike though. I'm just listening to the training. And so maybe I should try to win Kevin's training thing. But the training's keeping me motivated. So I'm just trying to stay motivated. I'm just like, I got to build my stamina, be healthy, not for looking good, but just to be healthy so that I will have a great another 25, right?
Thanks, Hollee. And Tanika? Oh, yeah, Tanika.
Oh, hi. While ago I popped some stuff in that, it's unstable internet again. So there's a message, like 10 lines that says how to get more involved with and passing citizenship adoptees. So all key, and kind of really are looking at 2021 to try to build. Efforts have been going a long time. In 2020, we got much gotten before. And so 2021 is unique because we have houses in Congress that are friendly legislation and who are supportive. And after midterm elections, we do not know that we will have this same kind of situation again. So this is a really critical year. Our chance to move a Congress member. It's a great chance to do it. It sounds a lot more daunting than it is. Usually they send a staffer and it's just a quick conversation and it's in and out. I'm happy to talk to anybody more about who would be interested in doing that. Pretty soon we'll be making see some on our social media. I put our Facebook, paste comma. You won't be able to get to the Facebook if you do. And then I put our Twitter and our Instagram handles in there as well. And finally, if you've got lots of resources, but you don't have lots of time, we welcome you to donate to our fundraiser, join our fundraiser. The registration link's there. It's on January 23rd, 8 p.m. New York time. And then also there's a link if you want to just donate. We welcome all resources. They go towards our direct advocacy efforts. So that's pretty much it. I've been cooking, watching Netflix, taking walks, loving my partner. And I do have some fluffy, like giant stuffed animals that also make me happy. Just to
Awesome, amazing. And I just because you were cutting in and out a little bit in the beginning, so I did repost what you put in the chat so folks could see it. And also just lifting up that for folks who are in New York, the New York City Council is passing or having a hearing on a resolution to send up to Congress, and I'm sure also known as will be sending out information, but it's this Friday at 10 a.m. So you can submit testimony if this is a campaign that you want to get involved in or you care about. So that is something happening locally in New York. And then also just for those folks who have a lot of resources, not a lot of time, and you're opening your pockets, just want to lift up the 25 campaign that Bianca was talking about in the beginning of this call for our 25th anniversary. So again, I think someone could drop the link into the chat. You can start your own campaign page, just get 25 of your friends or family to donate. It would be amazing. And now, you know, just I'm so appreciative to all of you. You are all incredibly inspiring. Just really, it's been so great to like have a prep call and learn all this stuff, and then also to hear you tonight. Again, grateful for your time and for your dedication and commitment to the community across the board. So thank you so much. And I'm just going to turn this back over to Mike to close us out.
Thank you to all the panelists, and Marissa, I just want to give you a personal round of applause. Yay. And one of the things I think is kind of the secret that I tell people is the secret sauce of also known as we do have this tremendous history of people who continue to help us, and they just have so much knowledge. So that was really on display here. And it just, I'm just kind of overwhelmed with the knowledge that's sitting here on my computer screen is like really amazing. So thank you again. Thank you, Marissa. It was really an impressive and interesting conversation. I really, you know, even though I've been doing stuff for several years now, I still learn a lot from all of you. So thank you again. I just want to make 2 little plugs. We have, you know, our next 2 events coming up. On the Monday, the 25th, we have Jordan Pyle, who's a she's a Chinese adoptee, and she's doing an event called Soundplay, which is about exploring how music and your emotions interact and just kind of how you can know yourself better through music. So I think that will be incredibly interesting, and it's an adoptee-only event, so it's intended to be a place where you can really explore together. And then on the February the 4th, we're having a kind of a world premiere of the Forget Me Not documentary, which is about exploring how birth mothers in Korea, kind of some of that history and what the situation is now, and also known as is providing a free free ticket for that basically. So we'll be sending those out, but you do have to register. So we encourage everyone to attend that, and we'll be having a discussion with the director. But thanks again for stopping by today, and we hope to see you throughout our 25th year. And we hope to see you many times. Thanks again, everybody.
Thanks for having me. Take care.